Hey, my name is Jonathan McClernon. I'm an online nutrition coach as well as a mentor to new coaches building their online businesses. And today I want to review PodMatch for you and show you why I think this is the #1 podcast guest matching platform out there. So let's dive in. So what we're looking at here is my PodMatch dashboard inside of my PodMatch account. I've blurred over some things just for the sake of privacy. And it might look a little bit intimidating at first because if you haven't seen something like this before, but I promise you, once I break it down and explain the different elements to you, you're going to see why I believe PodMatch to be a head and shoulders above every other platform trying to help you become a guest on other podcasts. And so it's not that these other platforms aren't really solid options. It's that PodMatch does everything they do and more, and they've done it in a better, a more time-efficient way. And that's why PodMatch is such a powerful system. Ultimately, we have a couple of objectives here. One is to get booked on podcasts, and two, I would say I want to get booked on podcasts as efficiently as possible so I don't spend hours and hours of my time doing this. And then three, I want to be able to see what is the measurable impact of my podcast guest appearances. Am I actually generating some kind of ROI or return on investment? And so let me break that down a little bit for you. Right at the top, the first thing that you can see here is my estimated reach from podcast guesting. So my estimated reach from the number of podcasts I have been a guest on. Over almost 70,000 listens and almost 1.2 million social impressions. That's incredibly impressive. So there's no guessing in a sense. Yes, it's an estimate, but now I have something that's measurable as opposed to, I hope this is working. And so I think that's really awesome that you get to see that right at the top. Over on the left, you're going to see the to-do list. And for me, it's actually just a number of guests that are coming on one of my shows that I'm having to make sure that we organize dates and times. So it just lets you know if there's anything that hasn't been done yet. And it keeps it in kind of a neat and tidy fashion and shows you what's kind of the highest priority there. PodMatch, because I have a dual account, a guest and a host account, it allows me to decide what kind of matches I want to prioritize. And because I get a lot of inbound requests to be a guest on my show, I prioritize matching me with podcast hosts. So I don't really have to look for guests on this platform because I have so many guest requests coming in for my show. And so I can toggle this, but I can choose to be prioritizing my matches for podcast hosts. Underneath that, you have a quick snapshot of how many unscheduled interviews I have coming up. Most of those, again, are going to be on my actual show, how many upcoming interviews I have, and how many completed interviews I've done. On the administration side, it lets you know how many reviews, what my average response time is, and unpaid commission, which is one of the neat features of PodMatch. As a podcast host, I actually earn a commission because podcast does revenue sharing. So obviously there's a membership fee to be on this platform. Well, PodMatch takes that revenue and shares it with podcast hosts to help them cover the cost of being on the platform. And so from the perspective of a guest, it makes me as a premium member a more attractive guest because a podcast host is going to earn a few bucks for having me on their show. Next up, it's going to show me what my upcoming interviews are. It doesn't distinguish between guest and host interviews, but it's just going to show me in chronological order what I have coming up on my calendar. So again, helping me to keep everything really organized here. And then over on the right-hand side, you can see the April member leaderboard. So at the time of recording, this is April 2022, and my current global rank is number 10. When we look at another part of the platform, I'm going to show you why this is relevant. And in my case, it's actually for my show between the before and after. You can see I'm the 10th ranked show on the platform here, which gets me a little bit more exposure as a show as well. But PodMatch rewards your activity on the platform. And I think that's also really valuable because I haven't seen this in other platforms where, getting reviews, booking shows, and things like that elevate your status on the platform. But PodMatch rewards you for the efforts you put into being on the platform. This is one of the reasons, I could be wrong on this, but this is one of the reasons that I believe I see so many inbound guest requests. So people asking me to be a guest on their show is because of my activity on this platform, and because that activity is rewarded, it allows me to rank a little bit higher in terms of the overall leaderboard. So I think that's a really, really fantastic feature that they have. Right here at the bottom, they're going to show you, here's when we estimate your episodes are going to be released, so that I'm aware of when either I'm releasing an episode or an episode that I was a guest on is going to be released. And that's super helpful as well. And then over on the right-hand side again, they have the PodMatch education checklist. This again, because PodMatch can look like or seem like, because it's a very robust platform, it can feel like there's a lot. And so they give you a very easy, short, 1 to 5 minute videos just showing you exactly how to get the most out of this platform. And Alex, the founder, does a great job of educating you on how to use this platform to its maximum potential. So the next thing I'm going to show you here is my guest profile on this platform, and I'll show you that and then show you why it's relevant when it comes to PodMatch's algorithm in terms of AI matching you with the best shows that would be a fit for you as a guest. So it's fairly easy to navigate. I click this little icon up here. I can go from dashboard to view, edit, guest profile. It takes me over to my profile. Again, I've got a pitch video here that they can watch, profile picture, the short notes, and here's kind of the backstory. And again, because I do a couple of different types of podcast guesting, I have a little bit more on here maybe than the average person might have. The guest tags, that's a really important feature and part of the PodMatch system because that's how they determine what shows might be a good fit for you. Down at the bottom here, they give you your social links. You can suggest titles, questions you're ready to answer. Here's highlight a couple of podcasts you've been a guest on, and then at the very bottom here, reviews. So I think this is, again, it's pretty clean. Obviously, as I said, my write-up here is a little bit longer than the average person. So I think if you're on here, you're probably going to have a shorter write-up, but it hasn't seemed to hinder me from getting booked as a guest. So now I want to show you the matches part of the platform, and this is where PodMatch really shines. And you'll see here it says 6 matches, meaning that I can only send 6 guest requests at a given time, and then they reset the clock for a number of hours. Maybe it's 4 hours or 6 hours or whatever. And part of the reason for that is so that shows don't get inundated at any given time with like a ton of requests. So it means your request is more likely to be seen versus some of these other platforms where they could just receive sort of an unlimited amount of requests at any given time. And we've seen that's one of the challenges with some of these other platforms is because there's so many requests probably coming in for some of these shows, that they don't respond to a lot of their requests. And so PodMatch is going to use the tags that I put on my profile and compare it to the tags that a show puts on their profile and then determine kind of a % match. So let's check out the matches part of this. So it's going to do its little work calculating matches for you and then show me here's a podcast that might be a good fit for you. You can see match strength 62%. Tells you kind of what the podcast is about. What I like here is it gives you quite a bit of data on this. Okay, so on the platform, they don't have any reviews yet, but they got, say, 15,000 social followers, so you can see what's the potential reach of being a guest on that show. This must be maybe a newer show because it hasn't got downloads per episode data, or not, yeah, only 5 episodes published. Okay, so this is a relatively newer show, but you can see from a quick glance all of this data that's been collected. That, hey, this is a show that might be a good fit, but maybe right now, because it's a newer show, maybe it may not have the same amount of reach. But they do have, say, a 15,000 person audience, so that's pretty good there. Language, any gender, age, any sort of requirements they have for being a guest on the show. So it's really, really simple here. What are they looking for? Someone who's looking to get in shape and has questions about the right ways to do that. Here's their tags down there. So I would look at this and go, it takes me maybe 15 seconds to look at this and go, you know what? I think they have a good show here. I think I'd have a good conversation with them, but maybe later. So when I click maybe later, it says here, this member's profile will be skipped for now, but it will recirculate back into your matches versus if I go to pass means don't show me this again. I don't think that it's a good fit. So in this case, I'll probably click maybe later. I do have the option of pinning it. If I want to, I could pin it and have that on my dashboard. I can add a note here, put maybe later and save. So that show, it'll just remind me to go back and maybe check out the show again. So I'm going to click maybe later. If I wanted to match with them right now, I could just click here and message. So you can see why they say that we're like the Tinder of podcasting. So if I click maybe later, it's going to show me my next potential match. So chasing happiness, self-improvement, education. I can see that they're a premium member. Here's what the podcast is about. Here's how you can check them out. Reviews, social followers, 41,000. They don't have any downloads per episode data, although I suspect that there's not zero. It could, number of episodes published, 7. So again, a relatively new podcast that I'm being shown here. And this also could be because I've been on the platform for quite a while and, sent out over 100 and something guest requests, that I'm now, as I move through the matches, getting to some of the newer ones here. So again, you can see the guest tags here. This is what they're kind of looking for. And so ultimately you can see, again, I'm going to say, actually, I'm just going to leave this one because maybe I will actually reach out to them. But for the purposes of this video here, I'm just going to leave this as the matches section. I want to take you over to the Explore tab and show you. So you're not just limited to necessarily your matches. You can actually go to the Explore tab as well. And here's where PodMatch, again, really shines. So because I'm a podcast host, it's showing me a potential guest for my podcast. And I think it's helpful to show you this so you can see what it might look like for you. A purple check mark means that somebody's a premium member, so you're more likely to get featured up at the top if you're a premium member. An orange check mark means that they're managed by an agency, so they're clear about this. If you get a pitch from this person here, it's not this individual, it's somebody who manages them in their account. So at least you're aware up front that that's who you're communicating with. They'll show you new and noteworthy members. So they also, hey, you sign up the platform, you're gonna be shown right up near the top, especially at the beginning, because it's pretty cool to just to get shown right away and maybe see some activity, get some invites on the platform. So if you sign up, they're going to make sure that you get that. From a host view, I can look at, here are some potential podcasts where I might want to be a guest on. They're going to, again, show some featured podcasts, new and noteworthy podcasts that might be worth it. But it's their search function and filters, which I think are really, really fantastic. So if I'm looking for a podcast I want to be a show on, I can say, how big do I want the host's audience size to be, at least? So I can say, well, maybe I want them to have a minimum of 5,000 followers because I want them to have a decent amount of reach. What podcast media type? Okay, I'm good for video and audio. Minimum episode count. I'd like them to have, say, at least 5 episodes because I want them to be an established show. I'd like them to have at least 1 review, so someone saying, hey, we liked being on the show. And I'd like to maybe see them get, let's just say, at least 100 downloads per episode. And then host produces blog, it doesn't really matter. Podcast average rating, I'm going to say 4 stars. I'm not hard on people. I don't expect it, And then you can choose whether you want to see the newest members first or by the leaderboard. So remember I was telling you that activity gets rewarded on this platform. And so the higher you are in the leaderboard, the more likely you are to be shown. So then I can click search here. I could have used keywords as well. It's going to show me some podcasts that it thinks might be useful for me based on the criteria that I've put up there. Now, that being said, this isn't necessarily exactly the same as the matching where they compare tags. But I've been a guest on the Dylan Experience podcast already. I've been a guest on What's My Story. And so you can see I've been a guest on iHealth Radio. I've been a guest on Let's Have This Conversation, on Real Men Connect. This is very interesting. I'm going to be a guest on Leadership Powered by Common Sense. And so just like looking through this, I'm like, oh, okay, there's actually like some pretty good matches here. I've been a guest on The Social Psychic. Anyways, you get the point. So these are shows that because of the criteria that I set, instead of just saying, I want these categories, it's like, this is more specifically what I'd like to know. I want them to have a little bit of an audience. I want them to have some episodes. I'd like to have, someone review them. I'd like them to get some downloads per episode. So you could be as picky as you want. I could say, well, I want them to have an audience of at least 50,000. Now, if you're going to go for a bigger podcast like that, well, you might not be successful in your pitch, especially starting out. But you can look for that if you want. Host minimum episode count. I'd like them to say 20 episodes published, at least 5 reviews, and maybe 1,000 downloads per episode. And let's sort by the leaderboard again and see what comes up. And so you can see, again, not all these podcasts might be a perfect match for me, but I can see what podcasts meet that criteria. And maybe I want to go on that podcast, simply because they have a bigger reach. So the filters part of it is also where PodMatch really shines. And I'm just going to swing over and show you the messaging part of it. And again, I'll blur some things out for the sake of privacy, but I'll give you a little peek behind the scenes there. So over here, you can see I can switch and toggle back and forth between host view and guest view. In this case, I'm showing you the guest view. And I'm showing you just a snippet from a message where it was an inbound request where this individual requested that I come on their podcast, which is fantastic. And you can see then over here, right now it says reschedule, and we're scheduled for the 13th of April. But if I hadn't yet scheduled it, this would say schedule. So it's very easy for me to click and go to their booking link and pick a time and get scheduled on their podcast. Some of them, like this one here, has a release form that you just click, check the boxes. Yes, I release. I'm going to be on their show, and they get the rights to their show and content and so on and so forth. Where PodMatch shines is that wherever possible, they'll get an AI or a bot to do the menial tasks for you so that when you use time on this platform, it's most efficiently used. And I think that's ultimately what it boils down to, why I spend more time on this platform than any other platform. I get a high number of inbound requests because I'm a premium member. As a host, they do revenue sharing. So that means that if I host somebody, I get a percentage of their membership fee. So PodMatch allocates 50% of their revenue to podcast hosts, which is really, really fantastic. They have a generous affiliate program. And I'm going to, of course, put my affiliate link to PodMatch in the description of this video here. So if you do sign up, I would appreciate if you use that affiliate link. So then I get a referral. And so they pay a 20% affiliate commission. And so I really also think, like Alex, I haven't met his co-founder, but Alex Sanfilippo, the founder of PodMatch, he's a very ethical entrepreneur and really loves podcasting and genuinely wants to support people and see them succeed in podcasting. He's deeply, deeply passionate about it. And because of that, because I put together all of this data, I actually had the privilege of hopping on a call with him. Again, I found him very down to earth, very accessible, very willing and open to conversations because he genuinely wants to hear from people and create an amazing product. And he's done exactly that. And so instead of putting himself in a, ivory tower somewhere far away, he makes himself very, very accessible to the public, asks for feedback, organizes events. So he's very active in terms of wanting to see this site, this platform grow and succeed. So seeing his commitment to it also encourages me to continue to be a part of this platform. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you do decide you'd like to sign up for PodMatch, please use the link down below. It is my affiliate link, and I earn a small commission for helping you to make the decision to join PodMatch. If you would like to see my reviews on 3 other podcast guest matching platforms to see how they measure up and compare to PodMatch, I'll put the link in the description down below as well. And of course, if you'd like to know more about what I do, feel free to check out either one of my websites as well. All right, take care.